Hello, I'm Ethan Chase, and a New York City-based small business growth coach. I work with organizations to help them unleash their people's potential and also build amazing workplace cultures. In my consulting practice, the last few years, especially since COVID, my clients have needed and asked for a particular set of coaching around how do you build a truly powerful multi-generation workforce. So what does that mean? It means the inclusion across the generational divide of the 5 and now 6, including alphas, generations in the workforce, from what's called traditionals or matures all the way up to alphas or Gen Zs for the purpose of my focus today. This video is on how do you build a multi-generation workforce, but in particular, it's really how to resolve an issue that I am seeing more and more with organizations I coach, and that is the challenge of avoiding ageism. And what is ageism? It's a bias based on an individual's age. That's what ageism is. So let's dive into it and do a little bit of soul search into how we can prevent ageism, minimize its impact, and really embrace the totality of power that comes from building a multi-generational workforce. So this from the president of the Pew Research Center. They conduct research into the composition of the US workforce and the generations that comprise the workforce and their contributions. So take a listen to what Michael Dimmock, president of the Pew Research Center, had to say about building a multi-generational workforce, because it's a powerful way to frame our conversation today. Generations are a lens through which to understand societal change, rather than a label with which to oversimplify differences between groups. So we want to get away from artificially imposed stereotypes based on generation into really how to bring traditionalists / matures, boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, Gen Zs, and alphas together in order to reap the reward of a truly diverse workforce. So differences between generations, according to Pew Research, the differences are real, but their research shows that the differences between generations have little importance when it comes to predicting how people are going to act, what motivates us to work, and might I add, the ability to contribute based on their life's experience, work, background, upbringing, training, coaching, culture, language proficiency, outside interest, volunteer work, values. All of those have a much more powerful driving factor. What does that mean for you as an organization looking to build a great workforce, to leverage human capital? It means from a talent acquisition, from a recruiting perspective, think less arbitrarily about stereotypical differences like age, for example, and more about the totality of what an individual brings to the table. So to that point, the Pew Research Center goes on to say, experience matters more than generational labels. You know this, I know this, we all know this. But although their research focuses on generational attitudes, biases exist. But even in the research, President Michael Dimmock emphasized that generations are a lens through which to understand societal change. That's what I wanted to start on today. So this video is about making you more aware of differences in generations and how do you construct a powerful organization that leverages the potential contributions of all of your workers, even your most mature, seasoned, tenured professionals. So while setting up let me frame this again. While setting up frameworks to encourage cross-generational mentorship and education, learning and development professionals, for example, should remember that knowledge can flow both ways, from younger, less tenured to more tenured and backwards employees. It goes both ways. And you really want to reap the reward of benefiting from the totality of everybody's experience. A senior employee with decades of experience that you may have passed over during your interviewing because of ageism, these senior folks might be in an excellent position to share their knowledge and insights with younger workers about industry, management, negotiation, acceptable business practices and behaviors, emotional intelligence, communication. That's mentoring and coaching. Conversely, Gen Zs, who are maybe newer hires and have less totality of experience in the workforce, might be the best person to show colleagues how to get the most business benefit from social media. So it has to go both ways in today's multi or intergenerational workforce. Knowledge doesn't go down anymore. It goes down, up, across, in and out. So I'm going to put a link to this and all the other resources because this Pew Research Center's survey into unlocking the benefits of a multi-generational workforce is really, really powerful stuff. So in my work, coaching and consulting with individuals, executives, job seekers, organizations, from startups to the established multinational corporations, there's this disturbing trend that's been going on. And although it's been going on for years, I've noticed it really ramp up in the last few years since COVID. So age bias in today's job market. So this in Discourse magazine from earlier this year. An aging, longer lived US population makes it critical to increase employment among older workers if the economy is going to continue to grow. And that's open to debate right now with tariff wars, supply chain issues, formerly favorable country trading partners who we've alienated, a globalization of business, the reliance on workforces outside geographically the US. So we're going to need highly trained, motivated individuals, even as they're in their sunset years, while saving earlier, saving more, and investing wisely are still crucial for everybody in the workforce looking to build post-retirement stability and wealth. Longer and healthier lifespans make it just as important for people to continue to work past what used to be a typical retirement age of 65. People are retiring now, officially retiring, and pursuing alternate or other career journey chapters of their work life. So they're looking for work beyond the traditional retirement. So this workforce in America needs to fundamentally rethink and readjust its notion of retirement because people are living longer, they're working longer, and what they thought they had done through financial planning to save up for their retirement years, unfortunately, because of many factors outside of their control, they're having to and or wanting to work longer. So there is evidence to support the contention that age discrimination, especially in your organization or maybe other organizations hiring, is preventing your organization from getting access to this amazing tenured, mature workforce. And it's also doing damage to the American economy and workforce. So retirement, as I said, retirement, the notion of retirement is changing. Older people are staying in the job market longer. They're returning to work after retirement, often in gig, part-time, fractional consultant work capacity. Maura Porcelli, Senior Director of the Senior Community Service Employment Program at the National Council on Aging, works with low-income job seekers to improve their job search skills. She notes how the current economy has changed the type of client who's coming for help. We see people who have done financial planning. They thought they were set to retire. They realized because of circumstances outside their control, they're not able to, and so they need to continue working. You and I know that searching for a job is frustrating, challenging, humbling to say the least. it's that kind of experience at any age. But for today's older workers, it often feels like an exercise in futility. This I'm seeing constantly in my consulting practice. I began my practice in 2009 as an executive career coach. I spent 6, 7 years there before I shifted to organizational development work, but I did and I do today see the impact that ageism is having. According to the AARP, workers over the age of 50 are unemployed 3 times as long as younger counterparts. And in a survey conducted by the American Staffing Association, more than 3 in 4 baby boomers, those who were born after World War II in 1964, said that they thought their age would be a contributing factor when being considered for a new position. This anxiety doesn't just make older workers hesitant to apply for jobs, maybe in your organization, it also causes them to stay in their current positions rather than pursue new opportunities. Those folks, baby boomers, and now, yes, I hate to admit it, people in my generation, Gen Xers, baby boomers and Gen Xers are starting to come to the realization that even if they are employed, if they want to continue being employed, it's not a viable option. And how do they know this? Because of their social circles, their people they know in their social, personal, and professional networks who are all struggling with finding employment in their later years. Older workers can submit hundreds of applications online without getting a single acknowledgement. That actually isn't just reserved to mature workers. That problem of not getting responses and being ghosted and literally sending your application, your job posting reply, your resume online is akin to following Alice down the dark hole. It goes to nowhere. So an older worker scanning the job ads today quickly learns to recognize when an ad is signaling that younger workers are preferred. Here's where the ageism comes in and whether organizations are doing it fully conscious or at an unconscious level, which I think is being gracious for them. When they say things like ads that say no more than 7 years of relevant experience or recent college graduate, that is obviously discriminatory. But ageist language is often used at a much subtler level. Here's where it really gets nefarious. Employers have become more adept at masking age discrimination in job descriptions. Seemingly innocuous phrases you or people you know may use, such as high energy, cutting edge, digital native, marketing ninja. That's code. That's code speak. If you're over 40, don't apply. And this isn't just wordsmithing and semantics around job posting. These job ads have been proven to prevent older applicants from applying. We don't want you. That's the message you're sending, or organizations are sending pretty loudly. A study published by the National Bureau of Economic Research showed that job ads containing ageist language attract more young applicants and deter older applicants. Congratulations. Your desired outcome was achieved. This strategy, this way of phrasing job descriptions using ageist language, has the same effect as direct age discrimination and suggests that some employers are trying to shape the job applicant pool, possibly because it will reduce the likelihood of actual age discrimination being detected. In other words, say this a different way. You can't be accused of age discrimination if older applicants don't apply. All right, okay, for sure. So I want to go to really interesting points of view from the National Civic League, addressing ageism and rethinking workforce development, especially with a view to what's going on in our workforce. So there's an extremely perplexing paradox that exists in the current US job market. And I'm going back to 2022 for this, but the US Bureau of Labor Statistics data reported that anywhere between 10 and 11 million unfilled jobs existed in the country post-COVID 2022. So the writer, Janine Vandenberg, states that in her home state, which is Colorado, the governor reported at the unveiling of Colorado's Talent Pipeline report that there are 2 jobs available for every one person unemployed. What does that tell us? The paradox, the shift between jobs that the workforce is looking to offer and the number of workers who are out there. Is it that workers don't possess the skills? Perhaps. Is it that the jobs are new technology? Are there other reasons why there's a mismatch between the job market, the number of opportunities, and the people who can fill them? Older workers want to work and are not being considered for open positions. Here's where I say ageism exists. Workforce development centers report large numbers of people, ages 50 plus, who are looking for services to help put them in a position of stronger marketability in the job market. So this article, written by Janine Vandenberg, at Changing the Narrative, we hear constantly from older job seekers who believe they're not being given a chance for open positions. And the workforce, the workshops that we offer at Changing the Narrative with workforce development centers, it's always filled with people who are 50 plus years old. Data from the American Association of Retired People suggests that rampant workplace age discrimination may be going on. Strong use of the word may. So ARP's research survey conducted in 2021 found that 78% of all people ages 40 to 65 had either seen or personally experienced age discrimination in the workplace. 78%, nearly 4 out of 5. Resume Builder surveyed 800 hiring managers across the US and found that 38% of them admitted to reviewing applications with some sort of age bias intent. While the myth of a pandemic-related great retirement among older adults exists, even right now, August 28, 2025, research conducted by the Schwartz Center of Economic Policy Analysis shed light on what's actually happened since COVID. There was a great shedding. Older workers were forced out of the workplace. Most of the so-called retirements happened after older workers who had been pushed out were unable to find other employment. So liberal use of prettied up words to justify the fact that there is a conscious effort and notable trend in the US workforce of pushing older workers out. It doesn't just happen organically without any intent. It's being strategically architected by many US organizations. So why is this important? What are we missing? The world is aging and changing. People are getting healthier, living longer, having different needs when it comes to work-life balance, and the need, the desire, the passion to continue to contribute to society, feel relevant, earn a viable income, extends to what we used to think would be the cutoff date of 65. You reach 65, regardless of your circumstances, you're done. Have a nice life. So when you look at the US workforce and population, in research conducted by the US Census Bureau, the population of the United States is shifting. In 1960, we had a population pyramid with a large number of younger people going up to a very small number of old people. By 2060, by contrast, it's projected that we will see relatively equal numbers of people at every age. So you can see on the left, 1960, from 15 to 19, 20 to 24. And then moving up, you see ages 85 plus, split out by gender. You see the shape on the left-hand side. In the middle, that kind of middle shape, is people from prime wage earning years, 20 all the way up to 65. But look on the chart on the right. You'll see comparable, the same age ranges split out again by gender, that in another 35 years, it's going to be equal percent of people by age category in the US job market, the US population. So this is a massive shift. And how is our workforce accommodating a shift in the US population of 330 million people? We need to think about what the workplace looks like. You may not be thinking about it on a day in, day out basis, but every time you grow and you have a need for more people to contribute work on a contract, consultant, or full-time, part-time basis, you're having to make hiring decisions. And your hiring decisions, your recruiting for talent acquisition, talent retention, is a strategic imperative for how you are sourcing talent. It's the Albert Einstein classic definition of insanity. If you keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome vis-a-vis your recruiting based on certain biases, that's dangerous for you and your organization. So let's go a little bit deeper. Combating ageism in the workplace. So how does, according to Tiffany Mack, research at Recruitix, here are some of the key takeaways of their findings. The EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, defines age discrimination as an employer treating an applicant or an employee less favorably because of their age. The Age Discrimination in Employment Act explicitly forbids ageism in the workplace. Examples of ageism in the workplace include being fired, denied a job, or passed over for a promotion due to one's age. Though ageism affects all employees, older individuals tend to be particularly vulnerable. Stereotypes about their professional capacity, might I add their mental acuity, the high value some societies place on youth versus not putting a high value on people's cumulative experience, background, knowledge, skills. So when we dive into the statistics, we realize pretty quickly it's real. In 1995, most US workers plan to retire by 60. Okay. In 2022, the target of retirement age for most workers went up to 66. Many older workers, what does that mean? Many older workers are working well past the age at which they would have liked to call a career, and or maybe they have to work longer. Many individuals who previously left the workplace between the ages of 55 and 64 have rejoined at even higher rates than younger age groups, mainly due to financial issues. So they're retiring, they're leaving, 55 to 64, and then they're not done. They're not sailing off into the sunset. No, they want to continue and or need to want to work longer. So basically, you've got 1 in 6 retirees who want to rejoin the workforce. But it's not an easy process. Once individuals are over 65, their labor force participation rate drops sharply from 65% to 26%. There aren't enough jobs at Costco for matures to stand at the entrance being greeters and check your receipts on your way out the door. So this decline in older people re-entering the workforce can definitely be attributed to ageism and other circumstances that have bias inherent in them. A recent AARP survey reveals that just as many adults, 14%, have reported being turned down for a job in the last 2 years due to age. 14% turned away for age. That's discrimination, and it is illegal in the United States. A different AARP survey found that 76% of survey respondents believe their job search will surpass a 3-month period primarily due to age bias, meaning it's harder to find work when you're older because most organizations don't want you for work when you're older. Unfortunately, it's not limited to hiring practices. This is where I wanted to go to at the onset of this video, is to touch on this fact. 1 in 5, 20% of employed adults over the age of 40 have personally experienced age discrimination at work. According to another AARP survey, about 80% of all workers between ages 40 and 65 report witnessing or personally facing age discrimination at work. How do you reconcile that bias that ageism with the fact that we still, as an economy, as a workforce, as a society, need value employees with tenure, with experience, who are mature. They are a contributing significant factor of the job market. Experts believe that companies can benefit from having older employees as mentors and key contributors, given their extensive knowledge and experience. It's on you as in an HR role, recruiter, search firm, a senior executive, a founder, an entrepreneur, whatever your role is in your organization. You have the responsibility to make sure that your organization is deriving the benefit of a fully diverse workforce, which includes experience, age as one criteria. That's a considerably important perspective. So I've had many people say to me, ageism, and by the way, none of them are over the age of 45. I've had many people say to me, ageism isn't a thing. It might be artificially inflated. It's blown up. So says the millennials and the Gen Zs. But it's not just that ageism is common. It is often an accepted strategy employed in organizations who are conducting hiring to the detriment of building a truly empowered workplace culture. And this is the work that I do on a consulting basis, is to make sure organizations have a fully diverse, generationally broad workforce team to collaborate. Exhibiting a tendency to avoid bringing in more mature, seasoned workers can destroy your culture, and it also damages employee well-being. So what are you doing to learn how ageism might be affecting the culture in your organization? What are you doing? So I want to kind of talk a little bit about this. Amidst all the talk about diversity and inclusion, and if you've watched my videos, you know I talk about the importance of DE&I and it being removed from corporations, but ageism in the workplace tends to get overlooked. And there's a reason for this. In the last year alone, the American Psychological Association referred to ageism as the last socially acceptable prejudice. Think about that. It is okay somehow in American business practice to discriminate against people because of their experience vis-a-vis their age. It's, again, the American Psychological Association defines ageism as discrimination against older people because of the negative and inaccurate stereotypes. So for the purpose of the article, World Health Organization refers to ageism as the stereotypes, how we think, prejudice, how we feel, and discrimination, how we act towards others or oneself based on age. And I think that that's important because it cuts both ways. It also shows ageism of more mature workers against younger, less tenured workers. So again, that's an important point. Ageism can go both ways, not just directed towards people with more experience, but directed towards people with less experience. You know, Gen Zs these days, that also gets captured. But ageism against older workers, for purposes of a trend that I've been seeing for a few years that I wanted to address today, ageism in the workplace can perpetuate self-directed ageism that many people struggle with as they get older. We already, as individuals, are struggling, as I speak from experience at the age of 58. We're starting to see the latter half of our career and our narrative story arc, or the trajectory of our professional life. But we may still have a lot to contribute, but we're already starting to see and feel and experience, hear anecdotally through stories of our social professional network, ourselves experience, that we're starting to kind of see the writing on the wall. Studies that older adults who engage in self-directed ageism, we start negative head trash, talking to ourselves about ourselves and getting older, are likely to experience feelings of uselessness and have shorter lifespans. This is a bigger societal impact than we even realize. But where's the research? This is why I wanted to shed a light on this. Ageism is a curious case of discrimination because every year age matters less and less, says Margaret King, director of the Center for Cultural Studies and Analysis. What the prejudice aimed towards more mature people, what the prejudice relies on is a belief that older workers have less to offer because they have set ways of thinking and are harder to train. That is absolute hogwash. But it persists in many organizations, and a big piece of my consulting practice is to have organizations stop thinking that way. So this idea, this bias against more mature workers is mitigated by the great number of people who are computer literate at older and older ages, and working remotely is assisting that trend. So we have a few things. As you get older, you're technologically incompetent. False stereotype. We know that stereotypes are simplistic ways of lumping everybody together. So it's a lazy way of taking less proactiveness and getting to understand people's strengths, skills, background, capabilities at an individual level. We just lump you all into a bucket. Also, giving people more hybrid and/or pure remote work enables them to be more successful. Those of us who are what we call sandwich caregivers, who have somebody who's older than us, a mature, and somebody who's younger than us, a Gen Z, perhaps, living in our household that we need to and do provide care for. The retirement age is increasing, right? That's not open to debate. It's happening all over the world. It's imperative because of that workforce leaders in your organization, not only throw away those outdated notions that older workers just can't keep up, but cultivate a work environment where your people, your more mature workers, feel safe to make mistakes and learn. In the same way that you provide that psychological safety for younger, less seasoned employees to make mistakes on the job as a process of learning. Think of it more as, regardless of age, get rid of that stereotype.